What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing the ultimate anti-Vigoroth team for the Holiday Cup with 3 Ghost and Ground type Pokemon in Runerigus, Palossand and Shadow Golurk. This type combination allows these 3 Pokemon to resist all of Vigoroth's typical moveset, meaning it gets completely walled by the entire team. Now obviously Vigoroth is pretty common in this meta, but how does the team fare against the rest of the meta? Well, I was able to go positive in 5 out of my 6 sets that I did with this team, including a 5-0. Obviously it will struggle against certain Pokemon. I think I lost a few times to Shadow Venusaur as well as certain flying type Pokemon, but generally it did very well. One interesting thing that I do want to mention is that I didn't see a single Vigoroth in my first set with this team. Now I know a lot of you are already yelling at the screen telling me it's the algorithm, it has to be. You build a team to completely wall the top ranked Pokemon and suddenly it's nowhere to be seen. Well, I think where a lot of people go wrong is that they'll play that first set and think, oh, well, maybe Vigoroth isn't as common as I thought it was going to be. Maybe I'll switch my team up. And that's when inevitably you start seeing a lot of Vigoroth on teams, and they'll say it's because they switched their team up, when in reality, if you just stuck with that original team, like I did for this video, you'd end up facing those many Vigoroth teams anyways, and you'd be in a much better position because you've still got your anti-Vigoroth team. I typically try to steer away from any algorithm talk, mostly because I don't really have strong opinions about it. If you believe in the algorithm, that's fine with me, and if you don't believe in the algorithm, that's also fine. I don't really care, to be honest, but what I do care about is that the algorithm talk turns the community against each other, and people become really toxic and start bashing anyone that doesn't agree with what they think, and that's certainly not what I want from my community. But anyways, let's stop talking about that and just get into the question of the day. What do you think is the best anti-meta pick for the Holiday Cup? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, and these battles are clearly not in order as I did just make a whole thing about not seeing Vigoroth in my first set, but the opponent gonna swap into Talonflame, and do they know about the Rock Tomb here? No they don't, it nearly one-shots them, we get the Shadow Claw farm down, and then they come in with a Charger Bug. The opponent doesn't know this yet, but they are absolutely screwed against my team as we've got 3 Ghost and Ground type Pokemon completely walling them. They might be running Crunch here because that is quite nice coverage for this meta, but it's still not going to be enough to flip this matchup. We're going to go for a Shadow Ball. We actually lose the CMP tie. I thought about no shielding, and they do end up baiting with an X-Scissor, so I could have lived that since it is resisted by the Ghost typing, but Shadow Ball grabs the final shield. We swap into our Palossand, and I'm hoping that the opponent recognizing that there's not a lot they can do, so they just concede the match here, but no, they go for a Crunch. They are debuffed, so it doesn't even do 50% of our health. We go for the Scorching Sands, taking out the Charger Bug. They come in and they throw a move with their Vigoroth here. The opponent goes for a double resisted Body Slam. That does a pathetic amount of damage, and the opponent finally realizing that there's nothing they could do, so they just concede the match there. Into the next game, we see Altaria in the lead, and I actually saw quite a lot of Altaria in the lead, which is quite fortunate for me since I am running Rock Tomb on my Runerigus. Now, Rock Tomb isn't the most energy efficient move by any means. Shadow Ball probably actually slightly better, but it does debuff their attack, and now I can no shield this. I can live anything they throw, even if they go for a Moonblast. They do go for a Sky Attack, and they also threw a really good timing just before we made it to the next charge move, but the opponent gonna use their shield there. I actually stay in with the Runerigus just because Shadow Claw damage is gonna add up a lot more than the mud shots that you can see from these Palossand. So we're gonna let the Sky Attack go through. They are double debuffed. I try to snipe with the Mud Snap damage from Shadow Golurk, but it's still not quite enough damage to take them out, and I end up shielding just because Shadow Golurk is quite glassy, and I don't want to get into like most of the way through the battle and then find out I needed to use my shields. So the opponent comes in with Vigoroth. A very odd decision here. We're going straight for the Dynamic Punch, and the reason I'm running Dynamic Punch is just because I feel like I've already got a decent amount of ground coverage across the team. So Dynamic Punch, good for just one-shotting those Vigoroth, and the opponent comes in with their Water Gun Lantern. We're going to make it to a Shadow Punch, swap into Palossand, and that Shadow Punch should put them into range now where one Scorching Sands takes out the Lantern, and the opponent is just going to concede the match there. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Runerigus into a Shadow Charizard. So this is quite a tricky matchup here. I've got 2 Pokemon in the back that have ground type fast move damage, so I'm actually going to shield this up. They might bait me. They do end up baiting, but that's fine. I'm going for the Rock Tomb straight away. Once again, I know that Shadow Ball basically would one-shot them, or I certainly would one-shot them from that range, but I want to debuff their attack, so now I can at least tank the next charge move. But no, I actually double shield in this matchup. I'm thinking, if I can get rid of the Charizard here, maybe we should be clear with our Pokemon in the back. So they go for a Dragon Claw, they don't make it to the Blast Burn, but I was completely wrong. They've got a Venusaur in the back, and this is really bad for us. We go for Rock Tomb, debuffing their attack. We swap into our Shadow Golurk, and the opponent comes in with Obstagoon. They throw their Charge Move just before we make it to the Dynamic Punch, but Night Slash doesn't quite take us out. Now here, I'm going to go for a very big undercharge, just in case they did let it go through, because I think my only play is to come out with a Charge Move loaded on my Palossand. So here we're going to come in with the Palossand. I might try and swap and catch the move, but I can see my Switch Clock isn't quite up yet. This Night Slash is going to do about 50% of our health, so I can't tank another one. So I had to throw there. Unfortunately, the Switch Clock not quite up yet, but I still can win this game if I make a catch onto my Runerigus, and I try to catch. The opponent holds onto the energy. Really good gameplay from the opponent there, and now they can safely go for a Frenzy Plant into the Palossand, taking out the Palossand, and unfortunately we do lose that game, but GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Diggersby in the lead, so not a great lead whatsoever. Gonna swap into my Palossand, and the opponent has a Sableye, so not looking too good for us so far. We go straight for a Scorching Sands. That does debuff their attack here, and now we can go for another Scorching Sands. I think I probably could have lived the foul play there, but I'm actually not 100% sure about that. So what I actually want to do is grab a shield back from the opponent, because I know if shields are down, Shadow Golurk can go for a Dynamic Punch into the Diggersby, which would hit for massive super effective damage. So that's kind of what I need. We're going to come in with the Runerigus, and they will make it to another foul play, but they are double debuff, so we can let the foul play go through. I'm actually going to swap into my Golurk immediately there, just because I know Runerigus can't really do anything up against the Diggersby. The opponent comes in with a Alolan Marowak, which is a very strange decision here, but just fully sacrificing it, knowing that it can't do anything against my team. So we go for the Shadow Punch. They come back in with the Diggersby. I'm gonna have to use my shield here. Even a Fire Punch probably nearly threatens to KO from that range. We go straight for the Dynamic Punch. I don't think there's any sense in baiting here, and the opponent calls the bait. They let the Dynamic Punch go through, and now even my Runerigus running Shadow Claw double resisted will be able to take out the Diggersby, and I'm able to take that game. So the opponent definitely misplayed that, maybe thinking I was trying to bait, but even if I did bait, I wouldn't have made it to a Dynamic Punch. So into next game, we're going to see Alolan Sandslash in the lead. Not ideal for me. Runerigus, I do believe, is the bulkiest on this team, so I'm actually just going to stay in, go for a Shadow Ball. The opponent throws on the CMP tie, which they know they win, but they're going to use their shield, so now I swap into my Shadow Golurk. These Mud Saps are doing big damage to the opponent. Of course, I'm going to have to use my shield here as they go for an Ice Punch, but now they swap into Unova Stunfisk, which is a very strange decision. I'm going to go straight for the Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch would do huge damage. It would put them into far down range, but the opponent uses their final shield, so that's fine with me. Mud Bomb going to come through, does a lot of damage. I'm going to go for a Shadow Punch here. I make a strange decision to undercharge it and not attack there, so that I can come in and get an energy advantage on my Palossand, but then I remembered that they're going to come out with a Charge Move loaded, so I do sacrifice the Runerigus. We get that one Mud Shot advantage. Is that really going to help me in this matchup? Let's find out, as the opponent's going to come back in with the Sandslash, and I'm not going to throw straight away as the opponent tries to make a catch. Smart play, but holding onto my energy allows me to go for a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball one-shots the opposing Palossand, and we make it to a Scorching Sands in time, and this will be enough damage to take out the Alolan Sandslash, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Skarmory in the lead, so going to stay in this lead matchup, and I think in the first few battles I went for Rock Tomb here just because I want to debuff their attack in case the opponent wants to go for Brave Bird straight away, and we do CMP tie. They do have enough energy for the Brave Bird, and they full send the Brave Bird as well, so now they swap into Diggersby, and this was a really weird matchup. So I'm going to let the first move go through. They go for the Scorching Sands. I can't remember the exact probability of getting a debuff with Scorching Sands. I think it's 50%, but I'm not 100% sure. But what you can see in this matchup is that we just keep on throwing Scorching Sands against each other, and just no debuff after no debuff after no debuff. We're going to go for the 4th Scorching Sands thrown in this battle. Still no debuff. I'm now going to come in with my Runerigus, basically just force the opponent to throw their energy. They won't be able to farm me down from that range, or at least if they did try to, they'd probably even have to shield a Shadow Ball. So now we come in with the Shadow Golurk, and the opponent going to go for another Scorching Sands. Are they going to get the debuff? No, they still don't get a debuff, and they come in with Cradilly, so it's pretty much game over. But we have seen already one opponent not shielding the Dynamic Punch. This time the opponent does play it safe. They shield up the Dynamic Punch, and unfortunately we do lose that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Not a lot we could have done, but into the next game we're going to see a Mantine in the lead. Shiny Mantine as well. They farm up to the potential Ice Beam, so I'm actually going to shield the first one, but then they go for a Bubble Beam, and that is not ideal for me, but I'm thinking that since they go for Bubble Beam, maybe they're running Aerial Ace as a secondary charge move, so I probably don't need to shield this as well. I do go for that Rock Tomb, so I debuff their attack as well, so we're basically just debuffing each other's attack. It's going to be a very slow matchup. Rock Tomb coming through once again, still doesn't do too much damage, as the opponent makes it to yet another charge move. Bubble Beam coming through, we're now 3 stages debuffed, then swap into a Palossand, so I'm going straight for the Shadow Ball. They're probably going to let us go through, but I'm going to stay in, basically force the opponent to throw their energy, because even though we are 3 stages debuffed, our Shadow Claws are still chunking. They go for an Earth Power, so I'm thinking I should actually be able to come in and fully Mud Slap, farm them down with my Shadow Golurk, and I'm able to do exactly that. Now the opponent makes it to yet another Bubble Beam, just going to have to let it go through. I can't really afford to shield a Bubble Beam from that range, so now we're going to go for a Shadow Punch. This will be taking out the Mantine or grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and the opponent's actually got Whimsicott in the back, so quite interesting that they wanted to shield their Mantine. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball, dealing big damage to the Whimsicott, and the opponent looks like they're going to farm to basically 100 energy, which is smart. Grass Knot going to be taking us out. Actually, that wasn't quite 100 energy there, since we would have made it to the charge move first, but now we can just go for the full Mud Slap farm down, shielding up the Grass Knot. They don't have 2 charge moves loaded, and now a Shadow Punch is going to win us the CMP tie, and Shadow Punch will also take out the Mantine, and I'm able to take that game. So we just beat a water and flying type Pokemon as well as a grass type Pokemon with a triple ground team, so that's pretty impressive if I do say so myself. But into the next game we're going to see Greedent, so I'm going to swap out straight away. Obviously Shadow Claw going to be double resisted, obviously Crunch, or if they're running Trailblaze, would be super effective, but I let the first one go through just in case they were running Trailblaze, since obviously that would boost their attack, and then the next moves would do more damage. The opponent comes in with Jellicent, they're running Bubble, and unfortunately we barely don't make it to the next charge move, so they've got quite a big energy advantage. I'm going to come in with my Runerigus here, and I do expect that the opponent's going to go straight Surf here. We've got 2 shields remaining, so no point going for that Shadow Ball since it's quite likely that I do shield, but I use that against them as I do no shield the first move. We can now make it to a Shadow Ball with my Runerigus, and the opponent probably not going to shield the Jellicent. They do let it go down, they come back in with the Greedent. I'm going to let this move go through. I basically just force the opponent to throw their energy there as they go for a Crunch. We now come in with the Shadow Golurk. They're already at another charge move. I have to let the first move go through in case the Crunch gets the debuff. It doesn't get the debuff, but it does too much damage anyways, and I'm actually going to shield here just because I was curious to see what they had in the back, and they've got a Palossand of their own. They're able to Mudshot, farm me down, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game we see Frostlass in the lead, so the opponent swaps into Lantern. I'm going to stay in initially, just tank this move. Runerigus is the bulkiest of these 3 Pokemon, so Surf not going to do too much damage there. We do bank near a Shadow Ball, we swap into our Palossand, and I know a Scorching Sands won't quite take them out from this range, but once I make it to back-to-back charge moves, this should now be enough damage to take out the Lantern here. So we go for the Scorching Sands, taking out the Lantern, and if they come back in with the Frostlass, I will be able to make it to multiple charge moves if the opponent tries to go for a farm down here. So we go for the Scorching Sands, a bit unnecessary, but Scorching Sands grabs a shield from the opponent, debuffs their attack. Honestly, could have gone for another Scorching Sands there, throwing before they made it to the Avalanche, but we throw on the CMP tie, and now we're going to come back in with the Runerigus, overfarm just slightly, go for a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be grabbing the final shield from the opponent. And at this point, I'm going to let the Runerigus go down. Avalanche will be taking us out. We come in with the Shadow Golurk, and I'm going to throw straight away. The opponent overfarms there for some reason, I'm not sure why, but Shadow Punch takes out the Frostlass, and they've got Vigoroth in the back, so it wasn't looking too good for us, but now I can safely shield this up. Honestly, Rockslide probably still doesn't quite take us out. They go for a Body Slam bait just for the sake of it, but it doesn't matter. Dynamic Punch will easily be taking out the Vigoroth, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into next game we see Jellicent in the lead, so bit of a tricky lead matchup just because Surf will be super effective, but I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball straight away. Of course, the opponent might no shield thinking it is a Sand Tomb, but we're not running Sand Tomb, so We just go for that Shadow Ball. The opponent goes for a Surf. We do live that. I'm going to stay in just to force the opponent to throw their next charge move immediately. They are going to go for the Surf to take out the Runerigus, but now we can come in with the Palisand, shield once, and then I will be able to overfarm just a little bit in this matchup, but they do have quite a lot of residual energy. They go for a Surf bait once again, but now we're going for the Scorching Sands. I believe it should be enough to take them out, and it does take out the Jellicent. They come in with Shadow Venusaur, and this is looking quite scary for us. I go for Scorching Sands pretty much straight away, grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and if they try to farm me down, well actually no, they swap, they catch the move onto Vigoroth. I thought I was in a pretty good position at this point because we can come in with the Shadow Golurk, go for the full Mud Slap farm down, and I'm hoping I can make it to 2 Shadow Punches before the opponent makes it to back-to-back Frenzy Plants, but it will be very close. They go for 1 Vine Whip here, and as long as they're not 1 fast move away from the next Frenzy Plant, we should win this, but unfortunately, they were 1 away. I think if I was running Earth Power, we'd probably take out the Venusaur from that range, but unfortunately, running Dynamic Punch has cost me in this game, so GG's to that opponent there. Very well played. Into next game we see Dunsparce in the lead now. Dunsparce as a normal type isn't really that threatening to me, so I'm actually going to stay in initially, bank a Rock Tomb, and then swap into my Palisand. And what you're going to see quite a lot against Dunsparce is that I time my charge moves really badly. I think a lot of content creators have also mentioned this in the past, but the rollout animation seems to be like 1 turn behind where it should be, so it just makes it like really confusing as to when to throw your charge moves properly. But the opponent going to go for a charge move here. We are very close to the next move, so I'm actually going to shield this up. I know my switch clock is coming up soon, so we go for the Shadow Ball here, and the opponent is going to go for the full farm down, so I swap, I snipe with the Shadow Ball from my Runerigus, and this will be taking out the Frost Sass, and the opponent probably going to come back in with their Dunsparce, so I will just let any move go through here. Don't really want to shield my Runerigus. We've got a third Pokemon that does basically the same job on my team, so we can happily no shield both times as the opponent goes for the back-to-back drill runs. We can now come in with our Shadow Golurk, and it just depends what does the opponent have as their final Pokemon. They come in with their own Shadow Golurk, so a very cool mirror match to see. Unfortunately for the opponent, they've got no shields remaining, so Shadow Punch one-shots the Golurk, and I can just fully Mud Slap farm them down. I actually go for a Shadow Punch here, bit unnecessary, just wasting time there, but the opponent lets the Dunsparce go down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into next game we see Breloom in the lead, so Grass type pretty tricky, but they are running counter as the fast move, so we do double resist that. I can just safely shield this up. The opponent goes for the Seed Bomb, and then they swap into a Dugong, and this is another really tricky Pokemon for my team. We go for the Rock Tomb, they let it go through, we debuff their attack, and I will be able to make it to a Shadow Ball on the CMP type with this Dugong as they make the Icy Wind, and the opponent chooses to let that go through for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but now we just flip that matchup. We can bank a charge move on my Runerigus or thereabouts, and then swap into my Palisand, and we should be looking in a pretty good position right now. They go for a Mud Bomb, not going to threaten a shield. We go for an over farm there. Maybe a bit questionable, maybe I should have just thrown straight away, but that's fine. We're going to go for these Scorching Sands now, and even if they come in with the Breloom, I don't think they can counter farm me down in time, so I'm just going to fully sacrifice the Palisand at this point. Mud Bomb will be taking me out. We've got a lot of energy on the Runerigus, and we can come in with the Shadow Golurk, and the opponent can go for a Mud Bomb if they want to. It's not going to threaten my shield here. I should be able to go for a full Mud Slap farm down, so the opponent swaps back into their Breloom. So I'm going to go for a Shadow Punch here, and the opponent might try and go for a full counter farm down at this point, but they leave it too late to the point where actually I can just safely shield this up. The Mud Slap will take them out, and I play it safe by swapping into my Runerigus, just because I wasn't sure if a Shadow Punch would take them out there. It probably wouldn't, but Shadow Ball easily takes out the Unova Stunfisk, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into next game we can see opponent swap into Talonflame immediately, but this is a lot trickier since they didn't stay in with their Vigoroth for a long time. So now I actually could have gone for the Rock Tomb there, but it would have been a CMP type, which is quite risky to throw on CMP up against Incinerate, because if the opponent doesn't throw immediately, then they get a full Incinerate in for free. So I think, either way, I probably should have just stayed in with the Runerigus, actually not thrown at all, got an extra Shadow Claw in, and then gone for the Rock Tomb, because now they are boosting their attack. They are dealing a lot of damage with the Incinerates here. They go for a fly. We're going to go for one extra Mud Shot, go for the Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball will be taking out the Talonflame. They're going to come back in with the Vigoroth, which is quite smart, but we can go for a Scorching Sands, and Scorching Sands is going to do quite a lot of damage to the opponent, but they then come in with a Lantern, and now all shields are down. My Golurk is my squishiest Pokemon on the team. Both the other Pokemon could quite comfortably live a Surf, but unfortunately Shadow Golurk is really going to struggle, so we try to swap and catch the move. The opponent holds onto the energy, very nicely done. They now make it to a Surf, and you're going to see Surf does so much damage to the Shadow Golurk, and even though the opponent was running a Vigoroth, we actually end up losing this game just because Talonflame caused us so much problems in that mid-game matchup, and the opponent is able to take me out there with the Lantern and take that game. So GG to that opponent there, very well played. Now into the next game, we're going to see Frostsass in the lead, so I'm going to shield this up as the opponent goes for the Avalanche, and now we can... the opponent comes in with Credilli. This is really bad for me. We're going to go for a Rock Tomb here just because obviously my entire team being weak to grass, we kind of want to debuff their attack, otherwise they're just going to completely run through my entire team. We barely lived that, so I'm going to swap into my Palisand. I don't think Runerigus can really do anything at this point, but we're going to save it anyways, just because we don't want to give them an extra bullet seeds worth of energy. We're now going to let this move go through as well. I need to save my shield for my Shadow Golurk. They've still got 2 shields remaining. Honestly, this is looking like a lost cause, but I'm going to play it out anyways. There might be something in the back incredibly weak to Golurk that we haven't seen yet, so I'm going to continue to play this out. We go for the Mudslap Farm Down, and the opponent is going to come in with a Alolan Graveler, and there is that one Pokemon that was absolutely incredibly weak to the Golurk. I'm going to swap, catch the Rock Blast onto my Runerigus, and at this point I should be able to fully Mudslap, farm down the Frostsass before they make it to 2 charge moves, and I'm able to take that game. We needed literally the most weak Pokemon, 2 ground type Pokemon, and we got exactly that. So very fortunate for me, but GG's to that opponent there. Into next, we see another Skarmory in the lead, so we are going to go for a Shadow Ball this time, I believe, just because last time they went for a Brave Bird and then dipped anyway, so debuffing their attack didn't really matter, and Brave Bird still did a lot of damage even when it was debuffed, so I'm just going to shield this up. I will go for a Shadow Ball pretty much straight away. I will actually throw it straight away here, and this obviously will take them out. They're very low, so they might just let this go through, and they do let it go through here, but now they come in with a Gligar, so I'm going to swap there. I tried to catch an Aerial Ace. The opponent doesn't throw straight away, so we're going to let the first move go through as the opponent goes for an Aerial Ace. They're not running Night Sash, which is good news for me. We're now going to go for that Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball going to grab a shield from the opponent. CMP tie as well, but if they go for Aerial Ace, they will get quite a nice farm down, but luckily they go for Dig, so they actually only get 3 more wing attacks in for free. And I think I'm 2 away from a Shadow Ball on my Runerigus, and we do win the CMP tie. I actually wasn't certain if we'd win CMP there, but we do win it. Shadow Ball does big damage to the Gligar, and we should put them into range where we can probably farm down with the Golurk. The opponent undercharges the move there, trying to snipe with their Skeleturge, but unfortunately we've got a 3rd ground and ghost type Pokemon in the back, and at this point we can just fully Mudslap, farm down the Gligar, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Shadow Victreebel in the lead. This is absolutely awful for me. We're just going to go straight for the Rock Tomb here. The opponent tries to catch the move there onto Mantine, and I thought it couldn't get any worse, but it actually just got worse as they've got another Pokemon that is going to completely destroy my team. I'm actually going to shield this up. They go for a Bubble Beam, pretty bad for us right now, but I'm pretty certain that they're not going to be running Ice Beam once again, so I let this go through. I'm actually going to overfarm quite considerably to the point where I can take them out with a Shadow Ball, and I will come out with a Scorching Sands loaded to throw into well, obviously not quite loaded yet because we can't have 105 energy, but basically make it to a Scorching Sands up against the Victreebel. But there's a 3rd Pokemon that absolutely destroys my ground types, so at this point I should definitely be giving up, but I kind of just want to show the opponent the team that I'm running just because I feel like they might have a laugh at that. But here we come in with the Rock Team, we throw it straight away into the Dugong. They get the shield there, and yeah, I'm just going to let the Shadow Golurk go down at this point. Icy Wind, going to do a lot of damage. They snipe with the Victreebel, and one more Razor Leaf will take us out. They're actually just messing with their food right now. Razor Leaf takes out the Runerigus, and we do unfortunately lose that game, but we had basically no hope whatsoever against that team, so GG's to that opponent there. Into next game we see Altaria in the lead, so a much more comfortable lead for us as we can go for that Rock Tomb, throwing it just before they make it to a potential Sky Attack, getting the debuff, and we can now live this move. As the opponent going to go for that Sky Attack, we can now outpace them to the next charge move, and once again I will go for the Rock Tomb just in case the opponent does want to shield the Altaria, and they actually do want to shield the Altaria, so they do get the Dragon Breath farm down. Last time we tried to swap and snipe with our Shadow Golurk. This time I might actually just take all the damage onto my Palossand and go for a very aggressive Mud Shot farm down. I'm still not shielding anything here, and we will be able to eventually get the Mud Shot farm down. We've got 100 energy. They come in with a Venusaur. This is not ideal, but this is why having so much energy is really helpful. We go for the first Scorching Sands, dealing big damage. The second one actually just takes out the Shadow Venusaur, and the opponent once again probably not expecting a third Ghost and Ground type Pokemon in the pack. We're able to fully Mud Sap, farm down the Skeledirge, and take that game. But you can see Incinerates were really chunking my Golurk as well. That was actually a lot closer than it should be in terms of fast move pressure, but GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we're going to see Vigoroth in the lead. The opponent swaps into Mandibuzz, trying to catch a Shadow Ball. Well, I guess not. Trying to catch a Sandty, maybe. I actually don't know what they're trying to do there. I guess just bank a ton of energy on their Vigoroth, since it will, well, it should be more useful up against my back line, but unfortunately for the opponent, that's not the case. But what is unfortunate for me is the opponent running Mandibuzz, and the fact that they swap into Mandibuzz makes me think that they might have a second Flying type Pokemon in the back, so this could be very scary for me. We're going to go for a Shadow Ball here, and Shadow Ball will be enough damage, even resisted, to take out the Mandibuzz. We swap out immediately, and they've got Pidgeot, and oh my gosh, this is absolutely awful for me. I'm going for the Scorching Sands. I'm just praying for a debuff. Unfortunately, no debuff with the first move. I don't really expect the opponent to go for a Brave Bird here, just because they've got Vigoroth in the back, which does, well, get completely walled by the Palossand. So we go for a Scorching Sands. We're now double debuffed. It's already double resisted. We make it to another Scorching Sands. Still no attack drop from us so far. Can we get the attack drop? No, we're still not able to do so. That is really painful. We're going to go for yet another Scorching Sands. Can we finally get the attack drop yet? Yes, we are barely able to do so on the fourth time, which is not ideal for me. We're now going to come in with a Shadow Golurk, and I actually make a big mistake here. I no shield. They full send the Brave Bird. Nearly one-shots us, and actually, if I shielded that up, we could have been in a pretty good position there, because they were very low. They would have been triple debuffed in their defense. Honestly, I might have been able to take that if I just shielded the Brave Bird correctly, but I thought they were going to bait, and I was wrong. So, GG's to that opponent. Quite a funny team there, considering that I had literally nothing up against that Pidgeot. It was still fairly close. But into the next game, we're going to see the opponent swaps into Altaria this time around. Still perfectly fine with me, as we do have that Rock Tomb. We can once again let the move go through. This time they go for Moonblast. Still doesn't matter. We make it to the back-to-back Rock Tombs. And I do expect the opponent to just let the Altaria go down. Come in with the Vigoroth, and now we can wall them once again with our Palossand. And this Scorching Sands is going to do quite a lot of damage to the Vigoroth. They then swap, and they've got Lantern in the back, and I've not included too many of these battles, but I saw this trio in so many teams, and I just absolutely destroyed it every single time. Well, actually, I think there was that one Lantern with Water Gun that might have taken me out, but aside from that, basically every single time I've destroyed this team, and it was very satisfying to see. But I haven't included too many battles against this team just because it does get a little bit boring. But we can go for the full Mud Shot farm down, coming out with a Scorching Sands loaded. Gonna throw it straight away into the Vigoroth, and the opponent just lets it go through, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.